Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Just Breathe with your girl Toya T. I have the pleasure of welcoming back a very, very close friend of mine, a sister of mine, Miss Cheree Peoples. Welcome, Cheree.
Hey. Next time we're gonna be doing this interview in person.
Yes, girl. We got a lot of stuff that we're gonna be doing together in the future. So yes, in person for sure, for sure, for sure. So before we get into it, because I feel like this is gonna be an episode where we really gonna have to just breathe a couple times. I want us to go ahead and take a deep breath in and exhale. Whew. Cause baby, I've been dying to get to this. I know we touched on this in our prior interview, but we probably didn't go to the extent of things. Tonight we will be covering something that I feel was very traumatic for you, something that you experienced, and that was you unfortunately were caught up in the Kamala's truancy law when she served as DA and Attorney General. And from what I've been seeing so far, we have a lot of excuse me, we have a lot of just divide amongst us when it's coming to her being president. And I know a lot of people have been reaching out to you because they want to talk to you um about things on from the political aspect of things. But for me, it's not that I care less, but what I want to talk about is how the experience touched you and how it made you change as a person, as a mother, as a caregiver, having to go through this ordeal. So for me and the rest of everybody, can you catch us up and let us know what actually happened to you and what you experienced under this truancy law?
Okay, well, my daughter Shayla has sickle cell anemia. She's been having it since birth. And since day one, we always have to have our documents in place regarding our children having sickle cell, especially school, so we can get things in place like a 504, if you need an IEP, things of that nature. So, of course, I was taking her to the doctor. She was having pain crisis, trying to figure out what was going on. And I was getting these letters in the mail talking about, she had unexcused absences. And I'm like, I'm turning her documents. And for some reason, I kept getting these letters.
Okay.
So I was fighting the the school district. I was fighting the school district. I was taking it up with the superintendent because technically, before my arrest, Shayla had over 60 absences. And the thing about the absences is, yes, I had doctor's notes, but when we call the doctor exchange and say it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you call, let them know what's going on. Hey, she has a fever or she's not feeling well. What do I do? They give you orders. And it was those calls that wasn't registered when they were telling me to keep her home from school.
Oh wow.
And it was traumatic. So as I was going through my trial and trying to figure out as I was fighting these absences, because again, she had 60 of them, plus, if I remember correctly, and trying to get it overturned while I was getting these letters in the mail and fighting the system way before my arrest. And I want to say, ever since she started that school, I was fighting to get these absences overturned, not knowing that it was the doctor exchange side of things that they did not see.
Okay. So tell me this because I know dealing with having a child, I know she has an IEP because of her chronic illness, and I know she has a
Had a
504.
504, no, only
She
a
didn't have an
504.
IEP?
Not at the
Oh,
time.
not at the time. Okay.
I was fighting for IEP. So I
Okay.
applied for one. I put it in writing, and that was also done before my arrest. So understand, a lot of things were going on simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Yes.
Definitely.
So as I'm getting letters in the mail, I'm calling them. I'm trying to have meetings with them, but I was also pregnant with my son. So at the time when my meeting came, I was actually in labor having my son.
Fine. Okay.
So it was a whole fight between me and the district way before my arrest.
Okay, so was she in elementary school during this time or middle school?
She was in elementary school during this.
Elementary. Okay, okay. And that's crazy. And I'm just speaking from a parent's aspect of having a child with an IEP and a 504 in place. Um, that the school would even allow that to take place without doing their homework.
Well, the funny part is, having a child with a chronic illness or any kind of disability in the beginning of the school year, it is required for you to update your documents. You have to do admissions at the beginning of the school, like you have to enroll them
Right,
every single year.
right.
So every single year in the beginning of the school year, we have to make sure that all of their accommodations is in place.
Right. So
So
do you guys go, I'm sorry to cut you off. Do you guys actually go and sit down with the teacher, the guidance counselor? Okay. Because we do the same thing here in Georgia. So that's why I wanted to ask. Okay.
So technically, I went to the school before school was open to present myself, to have a conversation with the school, to have a conversation with the principal, even before I knew who her teacher was. So I was already engaged with the school before I knew, because it was a brand new school, a brand
Wow.
new district. So I moved to a new apartment. We switched districts and schools. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and switch her schools. Let me introduce
Right.
myself. Let me give a copy of her 504 plan before school starts. So I was very active months before my arrest.
Yeah, because we know what this kind of stuff could lead to. And being the
Yes.
fact that sickle cell is so unpredictable, I know for you on your end, because we're so fearful of how things transpire and take place, I know you probably was doing everything you could to get stuff in place so this type of thing wouldn't happen. And look what happens. And I just like people today, like I was talking about us doing this interview today, I kind of got attacked a little bit, and it's okay. People thought that we were gonna come on here and bash Kamala.
It's
Um,
not.
and it's not about bashing Kamala. It's about us just being real, and having our eyes open to certain people that have power in places that make things happen. And unfortunately, some of us, like you, had to suffer at the hands of somebody not doing their paperwork. Somebody dropped the ball and you suffered greatly behind somebody dropping the ball.
And
And it
about it is,
sucks.
the thing about it is we're all governed by policy at
Right,
the end of the day.
right,
So whether you're an employee and you're working at a job, you have restrictions where you have to clock out at a certain time and take a lunch. You got to clock out and take your 15-minute break. We are governed when we drive, right? We have to
right,
have a license. We have to have registrations. If you don't have any registrations, you can be pulled over. We're required here in California to have insurance. So it's everything that we do, regardless from A to Z, is governed by policy.
right,
So therefore, having a child with a chronic illness, we are double, quadruple governed by policy. And
yeah,
what I mean by that, we are governed by their medical care.
right,
So we are constantly under what I call, they're mandated reporters. At the end of the day, they're licensed workers. Anytime somebody has a credentials, they're required to mandate and report, right?
right.
So as a parent, we are required to care for our children. If not, they're calling CPS on us, right?
Definitely, definitely.
On the medical side, if we don't take our children to the hospital, what they're going to say, oh, well, you're hindering their medical condition. You're causing their pain because you're not
Hmm.
bringing them
Yeah, we
into the
get hit
hospital.
with child neglect.
They're
Hmm.
getting hit on the medical side.
Right,
Then, if you're not getting their prescriptions on time, oh, well, you're still causing harm to this child because you're not providing their adequate medications on
right,
time,
right,
right?
right,
So not only they're pill counting, they're counting how you looking at how you communicate with the doctors. If you have too many missed appointments, they're going to ding you for too many missed appointments. Then you got your school side. So you
yes,
have to coordinate all of these things and don't have Medicaid or Medi-Cal, don't have other social services that is attached to your school, because then if your child doesn't go to school, guess what? They're sanctioning your cash aid.
wow,
So there is a lot of lot of policy that is intertwined inside other policy. And
Right.
what makes truancy special, that it's a criminal code inside of ed code where parents are being held responsible for their children's actions. And I'm not just talking about truancy or absences. I am also talking about how a parent can get held accountable for murder, for
Right.
manslaughter,
Right.
you know. And there has been stories, and it has been parents this year recently who was found guilty of
Yeah.
manslaughter because their child went to the school
And
and
shot
shot
up
up
the
the
school.
school.
Mhm.
So people need to understand at the end of the day, whether we're talking about truancy or we're talking about mass murder or we're talking about any kind of government funded programs, we are mandated by law. It's
Yes.
all intertwined with each other. This is not a direct attack on a particular person. But what make this law again special is because it's not a people law. We did not vote for this particular law. She campaigned for it. She got people to support her. And that's why her name is attached to this truancy
Right.
law.
Right. Right. Um so during your arrest, how many do you know? How many of you all, was it like a big haul? Was it just individuals? How many of you guys were ultimately arrested? Because it's been a debate about that as well.
Okay, well, it was a truancy suite. So
Okay.
what the county of Orange did was, and because we're talking about the district attorneys here, okay, so on one end we have Kamala Harris, who is Attorney General, and then we have the top DA of the county, and then we have DAs up under the county, right?
Right. Okay.
So the county district attorney was up for reelection. So what he did was
Mm.
utilize the truancy initiative that Kamala Harris ran behind and her core foundation of her being attorney general. So he said, since she used it, let me use it, because she put out a whole announcement like, hey, you guys, she gave her DAs a letter, put them on notice. We're coming to get you if you don't go to school. So they utilized her words and just did what she said to do. She's the boss.
Right.
So all they did was follow the head honcho. She put it out there and they follow suit. And that's just what it was. If your boss tell you to jump, sometimes you're gonna turn around and say how
How
high.
high? You're right. But what's crazy to me is where I say, somebody drops the ball and they don't cross their T's and dot their I's, and people like you end up in the crossfire. I just really feel like somebody else should have been at fault. And I'm blaming the school because they are the liaison between the doctors and her education. So as a team, parents and the teachers are supposed to work together to ensure that the child, if she's missing school, she's getting adequate home care as far as her homework. I know from my son, they actually sent the teacher out, so he was actually having school here at home because of the way his 504 and IEP was set up, and he was in the hospital so long. So I know that they have things that they're supposed to do and they should do in order for this type of thing to not happen, and to see this happen to you is just is crazy. So I want to talk about um how long did you go to jail?
Well, it was a special warrant, so I was only there for a day.
Okay.
But I just want to iterate to you when you was talking about the 504 and having things in place.
Hmm.
That's what I was trying to do. But you know how it takes a second for you to actually get that meeting, right? It don't
It
happen right
But
away.
see, out here we do both at the same time. We do the IEP and the 504 at the same time. So I'm thinking in my mind that's they had y'all set up with the IEP and the 504.
No, well,
That's
she already had the IEP, I mean the 504 from
04.
her other school
Okay.
that was set up.
And it
So
just
in
didn't
order
transfer.
well, technically it's supposed to, but what happened was, at that time, Shayla was still kind of in and out the hospital.
Right.
And her doctor sometimes wasn't willing to do the home hospital
Homebound.
education
Mhm.
component.
Mhm.
So I had to request it in writing through the school, and that takes a moment to happen
Okay.
until they can put it on their calendar. So by the time I got that meeting, I was working, having her 504 plan, and her previous 504 that came from the other school said that her attendance was affected due to her sickle cell. When I had her other 504 at the new school, they tried to remove it and do
Mm.
some other kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, that's not how this is going to work.
Right.
So I was advocating for the correct type of accommodations for Shayla with this school. So again, there was multiple fights at one time. So I had an educational attorney, I had a criminal attorney, I had a disability attorney. I had three different attorneys at
Okay.
once.
At once. And this was during because I was gonna ask next. You had to go to trial for this, right? Am I correct? So
Yes.
you had all three of these attorneys. Now at this point, now that you're going to trial, you would have these attorneys alongside with you to help you fight this. Um,
No.
no, this was okay prior to.
Well, this is how it
Yeah,
kind
break
of
it.
work. Shayla attorneys was just for her. My criminal
Oh.
case was separate from her educational component. But what people don't
Mm,
understand is it was a criminal code inside of an ed code. Okay,
mm,
so a lot of the attorneys at that time did not understand exactly what was going on because it was a new law.
right.
So they thought I needed an educational attorney, but in fact, it was a criminal case. So
Mm,
her educational attorney and disability attorney was given to her based off of her disability and me fighting for the correct accommodations. So they were helping me fight the district for her IEP. So
okay.
they were the ones who were helping me fight the district for the IEP. I had a private attorney to help me fight my criminal case, which was something different,
That's
all
crazy.
at the same time.
All at the
And on top
same
of it, I was
time.
homeless fighting this, and that's not including fighting her doctors, because in the midst of all of this, I
She.
had to take her from the doctors that was caring for her and switch her to another hospital. You know how that go.
Yes. Yes.
You know how when things is not going right,
So they
something's
turned.
wrong
So
with the
they turned a
child, they
blind
don't do
eye to the situation. Like the doctors, they didn't. And see, this is
I
what
think in the midst of it, when they were starting to get, because it was just weird on how the doctor started treating Shayla.
I want to ask you this. And this, do you think it's because it's sickle cell that it got overlooked, or it wasn't taken serious enough, or it was kind of like, because to me it sounded like you it was placed on the back burner, or it just wasn't important enough for them to step up and put the ducks in a row for this baby to have the plan that she needed
Feel
to
like they
cover
was
her.
thinking I had fake documents or something, like I was lying about
Yeah,
her
because they
sickle
they
cell.
don't take serious they don't
Uh,
take sickle cell serious, because nobody really does, but the people that go through it and the people that have to care for them. We seem like we're the only ones that have to really fight this disease, fight to advocate for this disease. Because I feel like a lot of us feel like if we're not affected by it, it don't affect us. Why should we care about it? But these are the ramifications of having a child with sickle cell can bring to you, and just blind you fighting, you doing everything you can to make sure that your baby is living life.
it's just sad on the fact that first of all, they did not pass on this information to the DA. So when they submitted the documents to the district attorney to charge me with truancy, none of this information that I'm giving you was even on the books.
That's
So
crazy.
it was just like there
Like
was
it's a
no
setup.
504. Right. There was no 504 that was inserted. There was no, she had, like, I was in active duty of advocating. I was meeting with the superintendents. We talking about 6 months of advocating plus.
Baby, I
So
know.
I got arrested in April. I was advocating, you know how the year started in August of the previous year.
Yep.
So that's at least almost 6 months of advocating prior to my arrest to ensure that my daughter get appropriate education. They tagged me with neglect.
Yeah, that's true.
And
Gus,
it took
you
me
really do
after
have to be
my
educated. I'm sorry.
it took me after my arrest. It took me a few years to really realize what I truly got arrested for. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, because you don't, and that's why I was like, I want to grab you and talk to you about this again because from one, I was, excuse me, I was concerned about your mental
Thank
because
you.
you welcome. You don't have to thank me. That's what sisters do. Because I don't know if you remember us, but us talking when she was becoming vice president, and it was an emotional time for you then because that's when people started reaching back out to you to relive this thing all over again, and you had to relive this trauma all over again. So even though it happened a couple years back, it's like it happened yesterday because you're being constantly reminded of these things when because she's running for office, she's in office. So people want to want to put in ratings or bring in numbers or whatever it is that they want to do for her or against her. They want to reel you in, not understanding that this is your life. This happened to you. Yeah, y'all can write an article about it. Yeah, we can do a podcast about it. We can talk, but this is you had to live this. Your family had to live this. And I know for you, it wasn't you still picking up the pieces because you dealing with it emotionally still. So I wanted to ask you, I don't went on a tangent, but I wanted to ask
Yeah.
you with her running for president now, and I know that, like I said, your phone and stuff been running off, been beeping off the hook because people want to reel you back in to bash her. How are you feeling, sis? Like what how are you feeling in 2024 and about her actually possibly becoming president, knowing these are the type of things that she stands for? How you feeling?
I have mixed emotions about it. Like the woman inside of me, of course, like, ooh, but then the actual person that went through something truly traumatic and knowing, like, I don't know nothing else that she stands for, like what other things outside of being a prosecutor and prosecuting and locking people up, like what is
Right.
it that you do and offer me as a person, as a constituent to this country.
Right.
I contribute a lot. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's like, oh, I hear you want to run this and make this federal. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of hurtful to know that you feel like you need to use your power against black individuals, whether it's a woman, a male, that's any parent that's caring for their children and trying to figure it out, to criminalize them.
Right.
I mean, to criminalize me as a parent that's really trying to figure out what's going on with my child.
Right.
What about the kids that are being bullied? What about the
Right.
kids that the parent is at work and they kid went to school and they ditching fourth and fifth period, and now you calling that parent to the school, they gotta miss work. It's just a ripple effect, especially to the lower income neighborhoods, because within this law, if you first of all, they want you to plead with no contest,
Right.
and with pleading with no contest, you either going to do some jail
Oh yeah, they
time or
sticking it
pay
to
a
you.
fine.
They
Huh?
stick it. They gonna stick it to you when you plead no
Right, jail
contest.
time or a fine. So it's like you ain't gonna want to do no jail time, so you gonna
Mm-mm.
accept the fine, right? And that's gonna put more issues
Stress.
on you and stress, because now you got this extra bill you gotta pay, and with how everything's as expensive as it is now, like,
Right.
just imagine, and not just only truancy, but just the fact that we're being held accountable for our children's actions.
Right.
So let's just break this down at the end
Yes.
of the day.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We are being criminally held accountable, not just held accountable and called CPS.
Right.
That's one thing. We talking about getting charges brought up.
Right.
We talking about possibly, if you're a licensed nurse, losing your license because you did a 12-hour shift at night and you was tired and you was running late to drop these kids off and they got too many tardies. They're coming after you,
Yep. Yep.
because they do look at tardies also. They're not just looking
And
at,
that absences. Definitely.
right.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
it's a whole thing. So what about they want to increase the graduation rate, and your kid is at risk of failing. And now they say you're responsible because they're not graduating, and we're going to criminally hold you responsible because your child didn't graduate. You
Right.
didn't do your job as a parent. You neglected their educational stuff.
Now I can see if you were a parent that has a child that maybe has behavior issues and maybe running away, y'all not getting along at the house and you can't control your child. But you, in your case, your baby was missing school because she was in the hospital or possibly just getting home from the ER, being in the hospital waiting for hours and hours on end. And she missed, no, everybody sleep. Even the baby sleep. Cause we ain't got no energy to get up. Ain't nobody going to work. Ain't nobody going to school. Cause we getting excuses because we tired.
We tired. We
We
tired.
tired. I'm sorry. We tired, boss. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was just like, I wanted to just listening to your story. I was like, okay, she has at this point, you going to trial. You got a toddler, a 2 year old at this point. Um, your baby, of course, is still dealing with her illness in and out of the hospital. I'm sure you having because what they put on your record? What ended up ultimately happening with your charges?
Well, they ended up putting like 9 different DAs on my case. So throughout the whole entire 2 years, they
Ain't
was
that
switching
funny?
out different DAs on my case, until the senior deputy district attorney came into play with
Ooh,
his
senior.
girl, and he was from the fraud department where he used to trial murderers and rapists on my case.
Oh wow.
Um, it was just a whole
Did
ordeal.
did anybody understand or try to advocate for you from a parent caregiver aspect once they seen because I seen the paperwork. I know you had paperwork in place for your child. So
I
once
can
all
say
this
this.
came,
One time I had the Sickle Cell Foundation come, and they were so rude and disrespectful. The Sickle Cell Foundation didn't want to work with me anymore.
what?
The school district was so disrespectful to the fact that they didn't respect her. It was horrible. It was such a bad meeting. They didn't care.
And see,
She was trying to educate. She was trying to, get them to understand what sickle cell was.
they don't care. And
They didn't
I'm
care.
not trying to be funny. I'm not and I pray I don't offend anybody because that is not my intention. But when I say they do not care about our babies with sickle cell, I wholeheartedly mean what I say because they feel like it's a predominantly black disease that it only affects us, which is not the case. They don't care. Our kids look fine, but their insides jacked up.
Oh, what? Because Shayla had her stroke when she was 13, while I was going through my
Yes, I
trial.
wanted to I was going to ask you so after you had the you had 9 different DAs on your case. So what ultimately ended up happening with your case?
Finally, well, technically, they asked me to plead guilty with no contest.
Okay.
So they wanted me to plead guilty. I was just like, no, I'm innocent. I'm innocent. By this time, I was set for trial for 2 years,
Mm, mm,
and
mm, mm,
every time I went to court about twice a month.
mm.
Every 2 to 3 weeks, I was in court,
Now you said during
and
this time you was homeless during this time, right? So okay, hold
mhm,
on. You going to trial. You got a almost 2 year old or 2 year old at this time. Your baby sick, just went through a stroke. And that's let me tell y'all something, okay? For anybody that has a child with a disability, any type of anything that's just different that makes their body different, I don't think y'all understand emotionally what a mother goes through. And being a mother of a child that has a disease that nobody seems to care for except for the ones that have to go through it, I don't think y'all understand the emotions that come behind that having to deal with that. But we're gonna get into that some more because we got some more conversations to have when it pertains to us and our children with sickle cell. I don't want to get off topic, but it's crazy to me because I just really feel like if it would have been something else, you probably wouldn't have went to jail at all. I'm just saying. But because it's sickle cell and 90% of the time our kids look like they're fine because it deals with blood and it messes with them internally. So I don't think they believe that, like you said, they don't believe she was sick in the first place.
no, no,
I
because I had to fight tooth and nails, just for them to overturn the absences that I did get overturned. And it's crazy because I have a whole book over here, child, full of stuff with Miss Shayla, my baby girl, all my little paperwork. But I'm gonna just show you my book with her old little picture.
Hey, Shay Shay.
This was my book. So I created this book way back when she was little,
Right.
and this all of my precious documents. Girl, I got stuff from '08, 2010.
I do
I still
too.
got
I do
like
too.
this. Her stuff was completely documented, so it's like if they had any questions, we could have had a roundtable with the
Right.
doctors. We could have
Girl, I
found
stay
out.
calling round tables because, baby, once they call defect, let me tell y'all something. These people they just don't care. I had a lapse in my insurance. I was in the military. Had a lapse in my insurance because of my orders. Zaire went to the hospital for 3 days. He had an $85,000 bill. I'm working
How much
12,
out?
huh?
How much was that bill?
85,000 for
For
three
how many
days.
days?
For three.
Okay,
For three.
exactly.
Look,
Speaks volumes.
they called defects on me. I'm working 12-hour shifts, like you said. Coming in my military. I'm out here fighting for my country. And y'all gonna blind. I walk in the hospital room. Y'all in here with my baby in the hospital. So y'all see he's sick. Y'all see me in my uniform. I'm at work. I had a lapse in TRICARE. It was getting ready to reach. Girl, they sick them people on me. I turned the whole hospital up. How
So
dare
they
you?
actually called like children's services on you just because you had a lapse in coverage. So
And I couldn't pay the
just
bill.
imagine, just imagine it being a criminal offense. How would you feel?
I wouldn't even
You see
begin
how
to
it just take
know.
it up a level? It
Yeah.
just adds that little something to it because
Yes.
again, just being homeless and having too much medication on hand and you scared to send the prescription because you ain't have an address. And if you tell them you homeless, you at risk for them to say, oh,
You ain't got a
because
stable
now they
home.
making
Now
it
we gotta take the
illegal.
kids. Yep. Yep.
Right. And they making it illegal to be homeless in California. So you can't even be homeless anymore. It is illegal
So
unless the city itself put in place a
crazy.
ordinance for the homeless.
Crazy.
If you look like you homeless, if you look like you puss in a basket, they are roughing you up
That's
and
crazy
you're
to
going to
me.
jail.
That's crazy. Without looking at like I
Well,
feel
we
like, and that's just me. Like,
supposed to pay.
who was the person that should have been like, hold on, wait a minute, before we put her name on this list. Her child does have a 504. We have her paperwork. She submitted her paperwork. We're in the middle of helping her get what she needs in place. So when she does have these absences, so she's good. Don't put her on the list. I can see if she was, like I said, running away, skipping school, having bad grades, just being rebellious and, a normal teenager. But no,
This
she in the
law is a
hospital.
this law is a profile type of law. So
Yes.
what I mean by profile, what they said was my daughter was at risk of being a gang member based off of her missing school. And they wanted to give her probation officers. This is
What?
what I was fighting against. I wasn't just
Wow.
fighting for the fact of myself. I was fighting for the fact that they were trying to look at my daughter as a criminal. They were looking at my daughter as if she was a gang member and that if she don't go to school, she's at risk. When in fact, it,
See the
we
complete
that wasn't the case.
the complete opposite.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine having to deal with that internally, still having to be headstrong because your baby gets sick, still having to be headstrong as a mother taking care of her son who's a toddler, having to deal with how to get out of your homeless situation. I know you was trying to go to school. I know there's things you were pursuing, and now you got this charge on your record. That's in the wash. Um, nobody ever asked. Did anybody ever say, "Cheree, you okay? How are you? How are you doing after this?"
No.
Did you even ask
Several
yourself,
times.
Sheree, are you okay? How are you doing
Yeah,
after
I
this?
had to because I just remember even times when she's in the hospital and I'm going to court. You know what I mean? And especially when she had her stroke and I'm still going back and forth to court. My baby
Ooh,
spent even, you talking about a straight like 60 days maybe in the hospital straight trying to figure out how I'm going to keep her social security because if you spend too much time in the
ooh.
hospital at once, they take it from you. So I am fighting multiple systems trying to keep my head above water because now that she had her stroke, I definitely had
Mm,
to find me a place to stay. It needed to be downstairs.
I'm sorry.
And, through the grace of God, I was able to do that the week that she came home. Like days before she came home, God blessed me with an apartment, and I was just, when I tell you,
So
day
God,
in and day
God was
out,
right there with you through the midst of everything.
God was guiding. But the thing that
Amen.
breaks my heart, the thing that breaks my heart when you ask me about, how does it still affect me to this day is that I don't remember pieces of my son's infancy when I had him because he was 3 months old when I went to jail. And his first 2 years of his life is kind of a blur. I don't remember a lot
Yeah.
of his early years and seeing pictures or his dad showed me videos one time and I just broke down because I didn't remember that.
So I'm sure
And
you
then
had a moment that you dealt with guilt behind that.
yeah, because now I'm trying to find a way to make up for that. So I'm always like making sure I'm consciously spending time with him. I'm consciously
Mm.
aware. Like today, I was like, "Hey
Girl, you
T,
got
we
me over
gonna,"
here in tears. I'm so sorry. Oh
like
God.
earlier when we had our little girl talk, I was like, "I'm about to take him to the pool.
Cool.
We gonna hang out before, I do this because he's been a trooper this past week, helping me with Shayla because she really hasn't felt good. She went to the ER last night, had to get blood yesterday, and her counts has just been so unstable um that I'm just always in constant prayer to help me stay positive
Yes. Yes.
because my positivity really helps her in the moment. And so it takes me a second to like I'm really working through trauma,
You
like we've
are.
all been through the
And
trauma. And it like it took up until, and it's crazy for Kamala to be running for me to even recognize that I was in trauma. That
this is 4 years. This is 4 years after she became VP. And I don't even remember getting emotional about it when we talked about it then. But me knowing you and knowing the type of mother that I know you to be, the type of woman that I know you to be, for you to have to continue to live this trauma over and over again. I did want to ask you through this, like, I just want to commend you. I want to commend you. I want you to tell you to continue to stay strong. I'm so glad to hear that you said that God was with you through everything that you went through. Um, because they was on you hard. And do you
when
think
I got arrested, I knew it was a purpose behind
right,
everything that
right,
happened to me and for me. And because this is not just for me, this is for the world. You
yes,
know, sickle cell can be put on it's already, a world issue, but it really needs to be in the forefront.
it really
It's like
does.
we share a space with cancer patients and get looked over, get stumped over, not even included in a lot of things. So even fighting my case, I was still fighting things at the hospital so my daughter won't
Ooh,
will be included in things because she just felt like she didn't belong there too. And you
right.
get discriminated in the hospital.
You do.
They want to look at you dirty or they want to call you a drug addict. So I had to, at the same time as I'm dealing with this trial, I had to teach my daughter how to be strong in this. I had
Right.
to teach my daughter how to advocate for herself
Right.
because guess what? I couldn't be there. I had to go to court. I had to leave her.
And I can
I
only
had to,
imagine how that had her, you know what I'm saying? Her feeling like you never know that she's like, man, my mother going through this because of me and because of my,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Because I think they have a tendency to wear a backpack of guilt themselves when they see us going through certain things. They start to think that it's their fault. So I can only imagine my baby thinking like, dang, my mom had to go to jail because of me. Now she got to go to court. Now y'all separated. I know there's been plenty of times where I couldn't be with my baby because I had my younger son and we didn't
Right.
have, family to come and be at the hospital with him, and me and my husband, running back and forth trying to be a
Trying to
two
take
parent
turns
team. Yeah, and
and
it's
switching
hard.
over.
So I can
It's
only
hard.
imagine, you know, you and Ray trying to do things with them by yourself. It's hard when you don't have the family support. So, girl, I take my hat off to you because
I
that's a
just
lot.
thank God for angels, and this is why I just always knew I had special angels in place. So despite
Girl, God is not done with you
everything,
yet, baby. He is not done with you yet.
no,
He is not
no, but
done.
this is one thing I did not ever in my life dream of, to sit here to say that, Sheree, you will have a story with one of the most second most powerful person in the country.
Yes.
That you will be able to utilize this story to help other people that may be dealing with something similar, where they feel like they don't have nobody, or they in that by themselves. Because I know how it feels, to be by yourself in a hospital, to have nobody to bring you no food, and you asking for something, and the cafeteria is closed, and all you got is saltine crackers and some water
Ooh, say
or
it.
some
Or
cranberry
a
juice
juice box.
or a juice box. You be lucky if you get some graham crackers.
Or a
And
cup
then
of
if they got a
coffee.
little germs and little crack, girl, you in the game.
Them graham crackers and a cup of coffee.
Girl,
Oh, girl, I used to
girl,
be in there wired like, oh, I done had so many cups of coffee.
child. So, and even then, I was thankful for my angel nurses, because we do have some good nurses
We do.
sometimes
We do.
that will
Shout
go
out to
out and
all
beyond.
the beautiful, beautiful nurses with beautiful spirits that take care, that go to their job and actually do their job because it's their passion and they love taking care of patients. We need
Yes.
we need
We
medical care. We need people that care about people in the medical
and
care
will
in the
advocate
medical
for
staff.
our children behind doors that we're
Yes.
not able to
Yes.
be in, because not all the time are we able to be in those meetings. And when they're, speaking to the doctor and they see things, these nurses need to bring it up,
Yeah.
because they're the ones that are looking at the chart. They see the numbers and the counts,
And they
and
deal
they
with
need
them
to
on it. They
call
dealing with them all day.
all day, every day. So when you have a good nurse that really recognize something's not right, this medication is not right, they own it. And I love my really good nurses. I can't lie, I really do.
Me too. Shout out again to all the courageous, awesome nurses out there that actually cares about their patients. Um, I also want to ask you too, being the fact that this happened some time ago. People reach out to you when she was running for vice president, and now here people are bringing it back to your front door because she's running. I mean, I said vice president. Now that she's running for president, do you feel like people are trying to capitalize off of your story? And do you think that people think that you're trying to capitalize off of your story?
Yes, I think they're trying to say I'm trying to bash her or put her like, oh, oh, another black lady trying to bash Kamala, and it's not even about bashing her. From my perspective, this is just something that I went through, and it's a policy that she stood behind. She ran behind. Go ahead, you good? That she ran behind, and it's an initiative. She got a full grant behind this. This is
Right,
wasn't something that, oh, okay, us as a people came together and voted on, and this and that and the other, and it's a people policy.
right.
Then I wouldn't have nobody to be even saying, oh, you should be held responsible or accountable. But the thing that bothers me the most is that she refused to even acknowledge that it happened under her watch. Like, at least acknowledge that you were the attorney general, you were the boss.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she was the one who slapped the cuffs on my hands. So the narrative in which that is speaking, I want that to be clear and understand. I didn't say that she put the handcuffs on me. What I said is the law that she campaigned, she made it criminal.